The great chamber of Axis Prime had stood for 60,000 years. Its walls were carved from the heart of a dead moon, polished until they shone like black mirrors. 12 thrones sat in a perfect circle, each one built for a different species, each one representing an elder race that had ruled the galaxy since before most civilizations learned to make fire. Today, those thrones were full, and today, a species would die. Sereth Kai stood alone in the center of the chamber. She was Valori, and like all her people, her skin was translucent, shifting through colors that revealed her emotions to anyone who looked. Right now, her skin flickered between the deep blue of sorrow and the pale white of terror. She could not hide what she felt. Her species had never learned to lie. The Valori had lived in the Sethra system for 3,000 years. They had built cities of crystal and light. They had created art that made other species weep with its beauty. They had developed philosophies of peace and connection that were studied across the galaxy. They had never built a weapon. They had never needed to. Now they would pay for that choice. High Arbiter Keth Solon of the Tribunal raised one of his forearms for silence. He was Mendari, ancient and cold, his gray flesh marked with the scars of 1,000 political battles. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like a death sentence. The matter before this tribunal is clear. The Kreth dominance has presented evidence of prior claim to the Sethra system. This claim predates Valori settlement by 17,000 years. The law is absolute. Prior claim supersedes current occupation. Sereth Kai felt her hearts breaking, both of them cracking inside her chest like ice on a frozen lake. High Arbiter, please. My people have lived in Sethra for 3,000 years. 12 billion souls call it home. We have nowhere else to go. That is not the concern of this tribunal. The High Arbiter did not even look at her. The Valori are granted 60 solar cycles to evacuate the Sethra system. All assets, structures, and resources will transfer to Kreth control. Any Valori remaining after the deadline will be classified as illegal occupants and removed by appropriate force. Removed. Such a clean word for slaughter. From his throne of black iron, Warlord Geth Vorok of the Kreth dominance smiled. His species looked like nightmares given flesh tall, armored in natural bone plates, with faces that seemed designed to inspire fear. The Kreth had built their empire on conquest. They respected only strength, and the Valori had none. The Kreth thanked the tribunal for this just ruling, Geth Vorok said. His voice was like gravel scraping against stone. We will, of course, allow the Valori adequate time to remove themselves. We are not without mercy. Sereth Kai knew what his mercy meant. The Valori had 300 ships capable of traveling between stars. 300 ships for 12 billion people. Even if they ran those ships constantly for 60 cycles, they could evacuate perhaps 50 million. The rest would be left behind. The rest would die. This is genocide, Sereth Kai whispered. Her skin had gone completely white, now the color of absolute despair. You are all condemning my people to death, and you call it law. The other elder races shifted in their thrones. Some looked uncomfortable. Others looked away. None of them spoke. The Synth Collective, beings of metal and light, remained perfectly still. The Thasari freeholds, small and nervous, stared at the floor. The great Mendari Empire sat in silent approval. This was how things worked. This was how they had always worked. The strong took, the weak suffered, and everyone else looked away. The ruling is final, the High Arbiter announced. The session is. The doors of the chamber exploded open. Every guard in the room spun toward the entrance, weapons raised. The elder races rose from their thrones in shock. No one interrupted a tribunal session. No one had dared in 10,000 years. 5 figures walked into the chamber. They were unlike any species the tribunal had seen. They stood upright on 2 legs, with soft skin in various shades of brown and pink. They wore simple clothes, no armor, no weapons visible. They moved with the casual confidence of people who had walked into dangerous places before, and walked out again. The one in front was a woman with black hair pulled back from her face and dark eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. She stopped in the center of the chamber, right beside Sereth Kai, and looked up at the assembled elder races without a trace of fear. I am Ambassador Yuki Tanaka of the United Human Coalition. I invoke the right of advocacy under Section 447 of the Galactic Charter. I demand to be heard. Silence. Complete, stunned silence. The High Arbiter recovered first. The right of advocacy? That law has not been invoked in 8,000 years. Then it's about time someone used it. Tanaka's voice was calm and clear. The law states that any species may speak on behalf of another facing extinction-level judgment. The Valori face exactly that. I am here to speak for them. Geth Vorak laughed. It was an ugly sound, like bones breaking. And who are you to speak? We have never heard of your species. You hold no seat on this tribunal. You are nothing. Tanaka turned to look at the Kreth warlord. She was perhaps half his size, soft where he was armored, weak where he was strong. But something in her eyes made him stop laughing. We are human, she said. We have been in this galaxy for 18 years. We occupy a small system on the outer rim. We have no seat here, no power, no great fleet. You are right by your standards. We are nothing. She paused, and when she spoke again, her voice carried to every corner of the ancient chamber. But we know what it means to face extinction. We know what it means to stand alone against impossible odds. We know what it means when the powerful decide the weak do not deserve to exist. And we know that silence in the face of such evil is the same as participation. Sareth Kai stared at this strange creature. Through her empathic abilities, she could feel the emotions radiating from the human. There was fear there. These humans were not foolish enough to feel none. But beneath the fear was something else. Something hard and bright and absolutely unbreakable. It was conviction. Pure, burning conviction. On behalf of the United Human Coalition, Tanaka continued, I hereby declare that humanity extends full protectorate status to the Valori people. Any attack on Valori worlds will be considered an attack on humanity itself. Any Valori seeking refuge will be granted full citizenship in human space. And any species that participates in their destruction will be remembered. The chamber erupted. Elder races shouted over each other. Guards moved forward uncertainly. Geth Vorak rose from his throne, his armored form towering over everyone. You dare threaten the Kreth dominance? You, with your tiny fleet and your single system? We will crush you along with the Valori. Tanaka did not step back, did not flinch. Perhaps you will. Perhaps you have the power to destroy us both. But you will not do it in silence. You will not do it in shadow. The entire galaxy will watch. The entire galaxy will see what you truly are. And they will remember. The High Arbiter slammed his staff against the floor, demanding order. This is highly irregular. The tribunal does not recognize human authority to. The right of advocacy does not require your recognition, Tanaka interrupted. It requires only that I speak. I have spoken. Humanity stands with the Valori. Whatever comes next, we face together. She turned to Sareth Kai. For a moment, the two of them stood alone in the center of chaos, an ancient, peaceful empath and a young, stubborn human. Tanaka reached out and took Sareth Kai's hand. The touch was warm, real. You are not alone anymore, Tanaka said softly. I know it probably doesn't feel like much. We're small. We don't have the power to guarantee your safety. But we will stand beside you. Whatever happens, you will not face it by yourself. Sareth Kai's skin shifted to a color she had never displayed before, a soft, golden glow that meant something she had no word for. Hope, perhaps, or the beginning of hope. Why? She asked. Why would you do this? You do not know us. We have nothing to offer you. We cannot even fight beside you. Tanaka smiled. It was a sad smile, carrying the weight of old memories and old pain. Where we come from, we learned something the hard way. We learned that when you see someone being destroyed and you do nothing, a part of you dies too. We have lost too many parts of ourselves already. We will not lose another. The tribunal session dissolved into chaos. The Kreth warlord stormed out, making threats. The other elder races argued among themselves. Guards tried to restore order. None of it mattered. What mattered was this. For the first time in 3,000 years, the Valori were not alone. Later, in a quiet corridor outside the chamber, Geth Vorak found Tanaka. He loomed over her, his armored form blocking out the light. His voice was low and dangerous. You have made a terrible mistake, human. Your species is young. You do not understand how the galaxy works. The strong take, the weak bow. This is the natural order. By standing against it, you have signed your own death warrant. Tanaka looked up at him without fear. We've been signing death warrants for ourselves since we figured out how to sharpen sticks. Somehow, we keep surviving. Maybe it's luck, maybe it's stubbornness, or maybe the universe just enjoys watching us prove people wrong. She stepped around him and walked away. See you on the battlefield, warlord. I hope you brought enough ships. Geth Vorak watched her go. For the first time in his low. The human ship looked nothing like what Sareth Kai had expected. She had seen the warships of the elder race's massive, intimidating vessels designed to inspire fear. The human vessel that carried her to their home system was different. It was battered, scarred. Pieces of its hull showed repairs layered over repairs, like the skin of a creature that had survived many battles. She's not pretty, Captain Rodriguez said, noticing her stare. He was a broad man with brown skin and kind eyes. But the Aurora has never let us down. She's taken hits that should have killed her and kept flying. That's what matters. Sareth Kai touched the wall of the corridor. Through her empathic senses, she could feel something strange in the metal itself. Not emotion exactly, but something like it. Memory, history. This ship had stories written into its bones. Why is it damaged? She asked. Have you been at war? Rodriguez laughed, but there was no joy in it. Always, Ambassador. Humans are always at war with something. Sometimes it's each other. Sometimes it's the universe. Sometimes it's just ourselves. They reached the observation deck, and Sareth Kai stopped breathing. Below them, the human homeworld turned slowly in the darkness. It was blue and green and white, wrapped in clouds that moved across its surface like dreams. Around it, thousands of ships moved in careful patterns: cargo vessels, defense platforms, civilian transports, a civilization in motion. But that was not what stopped her breath. It was the scars. Even from orbit, she could see them. Vast stretches of brown and gray where no life grew. Coastlines that looked wrong, artificially straightened. Whole regions that seemed to shimmer with faint radioactivity. The planet was beautiful. Yes, but it was the beauty of a survivor, marked forever by what it had endured. What happened to your world? She whispered. Rodriguez stood beside her, his reflection ghostly in the window. Everything. Climate collapse, nuclear war, pandemics, asteroid impacts. We did most of the damage ourselves. Took us centuries to recover. Some scars never heal. Sareth Kai's skin flickered through shades of horror and sorrow. How did you survive? Stubbornness, mostly. And each other. When everything fell apart, we learned that the only way through was together. We learned it the hard way, Ambassador. The very hard way. He turned to face her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had seen in Ambassador Tanaka's. That hard, right thing that would not break. That's why we're helping you. Not because we're heroes. Not because we're better than anyone else. But because we remember what it felt like to face extinction alone. We remember the silence of a universe that didn't care. We refuse to be that silence for someone else. Ambassador Tanaka met them at the shuttle bay of the orbital station. Around her, humans moved with purpose, loading supplies, checking equipment, running simulations. The station hummed with activity. Ambassador Sareth Kai, Tanaka said, bowing slightly. Welcome to Seoul Station. I wish we were meeting under better circumstances. You are preparing for war, Sareth Kai said. It was not a question. We are preparing to survive. There's a difference. Tanaka gestured for her to follow. Come, there are things you need to see. They walked through corridors filled with humans of every shape and color. Sareth Kai's empathic senses were overwhelmed. She felt fear. Yes, the humans were not fools. But beneath the fear was something else. Purpose, determination. A kind of grim acceptance that was utterly alien to her people. These humans expected to fight, expected to suffer, expected to die. And they were doing it anyway. I do not understand, she said finally. Your fleet is small. The Kreth have 300 warships in their first fleet alone. The numbers are impossible. Tanaka stopped at a window overlooking a massive hangar. Below, humans worked on ships that had clearly been civilian vessels, freighters, mining ships, passenger transports. Now they were being fitted with weapons. Do you know what those ships were before today? Tanaka asked. Cargo haulers, mining rigs, family transport vessels. Their captains are merchants and miners and ordinary people who never expected to fight. Then why are they here? Tanaka smiled. Because when the call went out, they came. We asked for volunteers to defend the Valori. We expected maybe 100 ships. We got 2,000. People gave up their livelihoods, their savings, their safety. Some of them brought their children to the stations because they have no one else to leave them with. She turned to face Sareth Kai. That's what the Kreth don't understand about us. They see numbers. They count ships and weapons and soldiers. They don't understand that humans are dangerous not because of what we have, but because of what we're willing to give up. Sareth Kai's skin had gone pale again. They will die. Your people will die for mine. Probably. Some of them. Maybe many of them. Tanaka's voice was quiet but steady. That's what makes it meaningful. Sacrifice that costs nothing is worth nothing. Your people are worth the cost. In the war room of Seoul Station, Sareth Kai met the human commanders. Admiral Chen was an old woman with gray hair and the cold eyes of someone who had seen too much death. General Okonkwo was a mountain of a man who spoke softly but carried absolute authority. Commander Petrov was young and fierce, her hands never still. They showed her the battle plans, the strategies, the desperate mathematics of their defense. The Kreth expect us to meet them in open space, Admiral Chen explained. Traditional fleet engagement. They would win that easily. So we will not give them that battle. Holographic displays showed the Sethra system. Human ships were positioned not in formation, but scattered, hiding behind moons, lurking in asteroid fields, concealed in the radiation shadows of gas giants. Guerrilla warfare, Sareth Kai said slowly. You will not fight them directly. We will fight them constantly, General Okonkwo corrected. Every moment of every day. We will make them bleed for every kilometer they advance. We will never let them rest, never let them feel safe. They will win individual battles, but we will make victory cost more than they can afford. Commander Petrov pulled up another display. Meanwhile, we evacuate. Every ship that isn't fighting is carrying Valori to safety. Human colonies have volunteered to take refugees. 17 worlds so far, with more joining every day. Sareth Kai stared at the numbers. It was not enough. It could never be enough. But it was so much more than she had expected. Why are other human worlds volunteering? She asked. They do not know us. They have their own problems, Admiral Chen answered. Because they remember. Earth nearly died more than once. Mars lost half its population in the dome collapse. The outer colonies survived famines that killed millions. Every human world has a story of being saved by strangers. Now it's our turn to be those strangers. That night, Sareth Kai could not sleep. She walked the corridors of Seoul Station, her skin cycling through emotions she could not name. She found Ambassador Tanaka in a small observation room, staring at the stars. The human woman looked exhausted. The weight of what she had set in motion showed in every line of her face. You should sleep, Sareth Kai said. So should you. They stood together in silence for a moment. The stars turned slowly round them. I have to ask, Sareth Kai said finally. When you came to the tribunal, did you think you could win? Tanaka laughed softly. No, honestly, I thought we would probably all die. I thought the Kreth would crush us and no one would remember what we tried to do. Then why did you come? The human turned to look at her. In the starlight, her dark eyes were unreadable. Because some things are worth doing even if you lose. Because I would rather die fighting for something good than live having done nothing. Because when I was young, I read stories of people who stood against impossible odds. And I wanted to be that kind of person. She paused. And because I looked at the Valoria species of artists and dreamers and peaceful souls. And I thought, the universe needs more of this. The universe needs people who create beauty instead of destruction. If that's going to survive, someone has to protect it. Sareth Kai felt something shift inside her. All her life, she had believed that peace was the highest virtue. That refusing to fight was the mark of civilization. Now, watching this tired human woman who was willing to die for strangers, she was not so sure. My people do not fight, she said slowly. We never have. The concept is alien to us, I know. That's okay. That's not why we need you. Sareth Kai looked at her in surprise. Then why do you need us at all? We can offer nothing in this war. Tanaka shook her head. That's not true. You can offer something no human can. You can show us what we're fighting for. She turned to face the Valori fully. Humans are good at war. Maybe too good. Sometimes we forget why we fight. We get lost in the violence and lose sight of the peace we're supposed to be protecting. Her voice softened. But your people, you remind us. You remind us that there's something worth protecting. Something beautiful that doesn't need weapons to be valuable. When my soldiers are scared and tired and wondering why they should keep fighting, they'll look at the Valori they're protecting. And they'll remember. Sareth Kai's skin bloomed with that strange golden color again. Hope. Your people call us weak, she said. Your people created art that makes hardened soldiers weep, Tanaka replied. You built philosophies that have been studied for thousands of years. You achieved peace in a way humans never have. That's not weakness. That's a different kind of strength. From the doorway, the Kreth First Fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a hammer falling on glass. 300 warships, each one bristling with weapons, each one carrying soldiers bred for conquest. At their center flew the Devastation, flagship of warlord Geth Vorak himself. It was the largest warship in the known galaxy, a monument to Kreth power that had never known defeat. Geth Vorak stood on his command bridge, watching the Sethra system spread out before him. The Valori homeworld hung in space like a blue jewel, beautiful and defenseless. Around it, he could see the human fleet 47 ships, most of them converted civilian vessels, arranged in a pitiful defensive formation. He laughed. Is this their great defense? He asked his officers. Is this what the humans crossed the galaxy to show us? A handful of scrap metal and good intentions? His tactical officer, a scarred veteran named Kreth Volume, studied the displays with more caution. Warlord, we are detecting unusual energy signatures throughout the system. The humans may have prepared surprises. Surprises? Geth Vorak waved a massive armored hand dismissively. What can such a primitive species surprise us with? They have been in space for 18 years. We have been conquering for 10,000. This battle will be over in hours. He opened a channel to the human fleet. His voice boomed across the void. Humans, you have made a foolish choice. You have placed yourselves between the Kreth dominance and what is rightfully ours. I give you one final opportunity to withdraw. Take your ships and go back to your tiny system. Live out your insignificant lives in peace. Refuse, and you will die here today. The response came from a human vessel called the Defiance. The voice belonged to Captain Sarah Morrison, commander of the human defensive fleet. Warlord Geth Vorak, we received your message. Our answer is no. The Valori are under our protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. Then you will die, maybe. Morrison's voice was calm, almost casual. But we're going to make it cost you. Geth Vorak cut the channel. He turned to his fleet commander. Destroy them. All of them. Leave nothing but wreckage. The Kreth fleet surged forward. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison watched the enemy approach. Her hands were steady on the arms of her command chair. Around her, her crew worked with quiet efficiency, their faces set in expressions of grim determination. All ships, this is Defiance Actual, she broadcast. You know the plan. You know why we're here. Make them pay for every meter. And remember, we're not trying to win. We're trying to survive long enough to matter. The first Kreth ships entered weapons range. Their guns opened fire. And the humans showed the Kreth something they had never seen before. Instead of forming battle lines, the human ships scattered. They dove into asteroid fields, hid behind moons, disappeared into the radiation shadows of the system's gas giant. The Kreth fired into empty space where ships had been moments before. Then the counterattacks began. A Kreth destroyer moved too close to an asteroid cluster. Suddenly, the asteroids themselves seemed to come alive, human ships hidden in hollowed-out rocks, erupting with weapons fire. The destroyer's shields collapsed under the surprise assault. It exploded in a silent bloom of fire. Another Kreth squadron pursued what they thought was a fleeing human freighter. The freighter led them into a carefully prepared minefield. 3 ships died before they realized the trap. Across the system, human ships appeared from nowhere, struck hard, and vanished again. They fought like ghosts, like nightmares. They refused to stand still long enough to be destroyed. Geth Vorak watched his casualty numbers climb and felt something he had not experienced in decades. Frustration. They are cowards. He snarled. They refuse to fight like warriors. They are fighting to win, Warlord, Kreth Volume said quietly. Or at least to not lose. It is the same thing. No, Warlord. It is not. On the surface of Velori Prime, 12 billion people watched their sky fill with fire. Sereth Kai stood in the capital city's central plaza, surrounded by her people. The Velori had never seen war. They had no concept of what was happening above them, but they could feel it through their empathic abilities. They felt the fear and courage and desperate determination of the humans fighting for them. It was overwhelming, beautiful and terrible at the same time. A human shuttle descended through the chaos, dodging weapons fire, its hull glowing from heat. It landed in the plaza, and soldiers poured out not to fight, but to evacuate. Please, a young human officer shouted. Everyone to the shuttles. We're getting you out. The Velori hesitated. Leave their homes? Leave everything they had ever known? Sereth Kai stepped forward. Her skin blazed with colors of courage she had never shown before. Go, she told her people. Take the children first, then the elderly. Go to the human ships. They will protect you. Ambassador, the human officer said. You need to come too. Sereth Kai shook her head. I will stay until the last shuttle. My people need to see that I have not abandoned them. The officer looked at her with respect. Then I'm staying with you. Round them, the evacuation began. Velori flowed into shuttles in orderly streams, their peaceful nature serving them well even now. There was no panic, no fighting for places. They helped each other, supported each other, exactly as they always had. Above them, humans died to buy them time. In orbit, the battle had become a grinding nightmare. The human fleet was taking casualties. They could not avoid that forever. Ships were being destroyed, some quickly, some slowly. But for every human ship that fell, they took Kreth vessels with them. The Aurora, Captain Rodriguez's scarred veteran ship, fought like a demon. She absorbed hits that should have destroyed her and kept firing. When her weapons finally failed, Rodriguez aimed her at a Kreth cruiser and accelerated. All hands, abandon ship, he ordered calmly. It's been an honor. His crew escaped in pods. Rodriguez stayed at the helm. The Aurora struck the Kreth cruiser amidships. Both ships died together in a flowering explosion that lit up the darkness. Across the battlefield, human crews made similar choices. They rammed damaged ships into enemy formations. They overloaded reactors to create explosions that took down enemy shields. They refused to surrender, refused to retreat, refused to stop fighting. The Kreth had never faced anything like this. On the devastation, Geth Vorak raged. How is this possible? He demanded. They are nothing. They should have broken hours ago. His tactical displays told a story he did not want to believe. The Kreth fleet had taken nearly 40 casualties, 40 ships lost to a force of 47. Converted civilian vessels. The humans had lost 23 ships, but they had cost him nearly as many. And the evacuation continued. Shuttles rose from Velori Prime in steady streams, carrying refugees to safety. Warlord, Kreth Volume said carefully, perhaps we should consider what? Retreat. The Kreth do not retreat. The Kreth have never faced an enemy willing to die rather than surrender. Geth Vorak turned on his officer, fury in his eyes. They are humans. They are weak. They are still fighting, Warlord. Despite everything, they are still fighting. A new signal appeared on the tactical display. Then another, and another. Warlord, a sensor officer called out, voice shaking. Multiple ships dropping out of hyperspace. Unknown signatures. Geth Vorak spun to face the display. His blood ran cold. It was not human reinforcements. It was something else entirely. The Synth Collective. 40 ships, silver and strange, moving with perfect coordination. They were not warships, they were transport vessels. But their arrival sent a message that echoed across the galaxy. This is Counselor Mareth of the Synth Collective, a mechanical voice announced. We are here to assist with civilian evacuation. Any attack on our vessels will be considered an act of war against the Collective. Before Geth Vorak could respond, more ships arrived. The Thessari freeholds. Small, nervous, with ships that looked held together by hope and wire. But there were dozens of them. "The Vasari stand with the Valori," their leader announced. "We remember what the Kreth did to our worlds. We will not let it happen again." More ships. The merchant guilds, supposedly neutral, arrived with cargo vessels to carry refugees. The wanderer clans, nomads who owed allegiance to no one, appeared with ancient ships that still packed a punch. Across the galaxy, species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their voices. "What is this?" Geth Vorok whispered. Kreth Volume answered quietly. "This is what happens when someone stands up first, Warlord. Others find the courage to stand with them." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Morrison allowed herself a moment of hope. Her ship was damaged, her crew exhausted, her fleet battered. But reinforcements had arrived. Not enough to win, perhaps, but enough to change the equation. "All human vessels," she broadcast, "we have friends now. Let's make sure their faith in us was not misplaced. Continue the defense. Continue the evacuation. We hold the line." The battle continued. But now, for the first time, the outcome was uncertain. On the surface of Valori Prime, Sereth Kai watched the sky fill with new light ships arriving from across the galaxy to help her people. The battle had lasted 3 days. 3 days of fire and death and desperate courage. 3 days of ships dying and others taking their place. 3 days that changed the galaxy forever. Warlord Geth Vorok stood on the bridge of the devastation and stared at displays that told him something impossible. His fleet, the mighty first fleet of the Kreth dominance, had been reduced by nearly half. 140 ships destroyed or disabled. Crews numbering in the hundreds of thousands, gone. And still, the enemy held. The humans had lost most of their original fleet. Only 11 of their 47 ships remained operational. But for every human ship that fell, 2 more seemed to appear from somewhere: civilian vessels, rescue ships, even personal craft piloted by volunteers who had flown across the galaxy to join the fight. And the other species. The Synth Collective had lost 3 transport ships, but had evacuated over 1 billion Valori to safety. The Vasari had suffered terribly, their small ships no match for Kreth weapons. But they had refused to retreat. Even the Wanderer clans, ancient and proud, had thrown themselves into battle with a fury that surprised everyone. The galaxy had awakened, and it had chosen its side. Warlord, Kreth Volume said carefully, "We must discuss our options. Our options are victory." Geth Vorok snarled. "The Kreth do not accept anything else. The Kreth have never faced a united galaxy, Warlord. What began as a conquest of a defenseless species has become something else entirely. If we continue, we may win this battle, but we will lose everything else." Geth Vorok turned on his officer. "Explain." Kreth Volume gestured to the communications display. "Every channel in the galaxy is carrying the battle. Every species is watching. They see us attacking civilians. They see us fighting against volunteers who came to help strangers. They see us, and they are afraid not of losing to us, but of being next." He paused. "The elder races are already reconsidering their support. The Mendari have recalled their ambassador. The Galactic Tribunal is calling an emergency session. If we win here by destroying everything, we will face a coalition that spans the galaxy. The Kreth dominance is powerful, but we are not powerful enough to fight everyone." Geth Vorok was silent for a long moment. His armored hands gripped the railing of his command station, hard enough to dent the metal. "You are telling me that by standing against us, these humans have already won. I am telling you that they changed the terms of the conflict. It is no longer Kreth versus Valori. It is Kreth versus everyone who believes in standing for the weak. That is a war we cannot win on the human flagship Defiance." Captain Morrison slumped in her command chair. She had not slept in 60 hours. Her ship was held together by emergency repairs and desperate hope. Her crew was exhausted beyond measure, but they were still fighting. They were still holding the line. "Captain," her communications officer said, "incoming transmission from the devastation." "It's the Kreth warlord himself." Morrison straightened. Around her, the bridge crew tensed. "Put him through." Geth Vorok's face appeared on the main screen. He looked different than he had 3 days ago. The arrogance was still there, but something else lurked beneath it. Something that might have been respect. "Human captain." I wish to speak with your Ambassador Tanaka. Morrison raised an eyebrow. Ambassador Tanaka is coordinating evacuation efforts on the surface. Any message can go through me. Very well. The warlord paused, as if choosing his words carefully. I am prepared to offer terms. The bridge went silent. Morrison felt her heart skip. What kind of terms? The Kreth dominance will withdraw from the Sethera system. The Valori will retain their homeworld and their people. In exchange, you will allow my fleet to leave without further engagement. Morrison stared at the screen. She wanted to laugh. She wanted to cry. She wanted to sleep for 100 years. Instead, she kept her voice steady. Why? You're still winning. You have more ships. You could still take the system if you pushed hard enough. Geth Vorok's jaw tightened. Because you have taught me something, human. You have taught me that some victories cost more than they are worth. I came here to conquer a defenseless people. Instead, I find myself fighting the conscience of the galaxy. If I destroy you, I will have the Valori, but I will have shown every species in existence that the Kreth are monsters to be united against. He leaned forward. You did not defeat me with weapons. You defeated me with example. You showed the galaxy what courage looks like. Now everyone is watching to see what happens next. If I am wise, I walk away. If I am foolish, I win a world and lose an empire. Morrison was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. I'll pass your offer to Ambassador Tanaka. But I have a question first. Ask, was it worth it? All these lives, Kreth, human, Valori, all the others just for resources and territory. Was it worth it? Geth Vorok was silent for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was different, quieter. 3 days ago, I would have said yes. Resources are power. Territory is strength. That is what I was taught. That is what the Kreth have always believed. He looked away from the screen, at something Morrison could not see. Now I am not certain. You humans fight like nothing I have ever seen. Not because you are strong, you are not. Not because you have advanced weapons, yours are crude. You fight because you believe something is worth dying for. I have never seen that before. The Kreth fight because we are ordered to. You fight because you choose to. His eyes returned to the screen. I do not know if it was worth it, but I know that I will never forget it. Ambassador Tanaka received the news while helping load refugees onto a shuttle. She stopped in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by Valori children who looked up at her with their strange translucent faces, their skin showing emotions she had learned to read: hope, fear, confusion. He's withdrawing? She repeated into her communicator. That's what he said, Morrison replied. I recommend we take the deal. We're barely holding together. Another day of fighting might break us. Tanaka closed her eyes. She thought about everyone who had died. Human pilots who had rammed their ships into enemy formations. The sorry captains who had known they were outmatched but fought anyway. Volunteers from across the galaxy who had come to help strangers and paid the ultimate price. Had it been worth it? She opened her eyes and looked at the Valori children around her. They were alive. Their species would survive. Their culture, their art, their peaceful ways, all of it would continue. Yes, it had been worth it. Accept the terms, she said. Let them go. The Kreth fleet withdrew. They moved slowly, watching for treachery that never came. Ship by ship, they gathered their wounded, collected their dead, and departed the Sethera system. By the end of the day, not a single Kreth vessel remained. The battle for Valori Prime was over. On the surface, the news spread like wildfire. Valori emerged from shelters and safe rooms, their skins blazing with colors of joy and disbelief. They had survived. Against all odds, against the might of an empire that had never known defeat, they had survived, and they knew exactly who to thank. Sarith Kai found Ambassador Tanaka sitting alone on a hill overlooking the capital city. The sun was setting, painting the crystal towers in shades of gold and rose. It was beautiful beyond words. The human looked exhausted. Her clothes were dirty, her face drawn, her eyes carrying a weight of grief that would never fully fade. But when she saw Sarith Kai, she smiled. Ambassador, your planet is safe. Sarith Kai sat beside her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They just watched the sunset together. I do not have words, Sarith Kai finally said. In my language, in any language, I do not have words for what you have done. You don't need words. You're alive. Your people are alive. That's enough. It is not enough. You lost so much for us. Your ships, your people, your—" Sareth Kai's voice broke. "I felt them dying, Ambassador. Through my empathic senses, I felt every human who died in our defense. They were afraid. They were in pain. But not one of them regretted being here. Not one of them wished they had stayed home." Tanaka was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was thick with emotion she could not hide. "That's who we are. We're not perfect. We're not even particularly good, most of the time. We fight among ourselves, hurt each other, make terrible mistakes. But somewhere inside us, there's something that refuses to look away when someone needs help. Something that says this is wrong and makes us act, even when acting is dangerous." She looked at Sareth Kai. "Your people created that feeling in mine. When we looked at the Valori, we saw everything we wished we could be: peaceful, artistic, kind. We couldn't let that die. We couldn't let the universe lose that light." Sareth Kai's skin glowed gold. "Then we will carry that light together. The Valori will never forget what humanity did for us. When your people need us, we will be there. We don't do things like this for repayment. I know. That is why the debt is so great." They sat in silence as the sun disappeared below the horizon and stars began to appear in the darkening sky. Somewhere up there, ships were still evacuating refugees, still carrying the wounded, still cleaning up the aftermath of a battle that had changed everything. But the fighting was over. The Valori had survived, and humanity had shown the galaxy what it truly meant to stand for something. "Ambassador," Sareth Kai said quietly, "what happens now?" Tanaka looked up at the stars. Now we go home. We mourn our dead. We rebuild what the Galactic Tribunal convened 1 month after the Battle of Sethra. But this time, the great chamber of Axis Prime felt different. The ancient walls were the same. The 12 thrones still stood in their perfect circle. But the beings who sat in them could not pretend that nothing had changed. Because everything had changed. High Arbiter Keth Solon looked out at a chamber filled with species who should not have been there. The Synth Collective had sent representatives. The Thesari Freeholds had demanded a voice. Even the Wanderer clans, who had avoided politics for 10,000 years, had arrived to witness history. And in the center of it all, standing where Sareth Kai had stood a month ago, was Ambassador Yuki Tanaka. She looked different from the last time she had walked into this chamber. There was gray in her hair that had not been there before. Lines of exhaustion marked her face. The weight of the dead hung on her shoulders like a physical burden. But her eyes were still sharp. Her voice was still steady. And when she spoke, the entire galaxy listened. 1 month ago, I stood in this chamber and invoked a right of advocacy. I declared that humanity would stand with the Valori against those who sought their destruction. Today, I stand here again not to defend, but to demand. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The elder races shifted uneasily in their thrones. Demand. High Arbiter Keth Solon's voice was cold. You forget your place, human. Your species holds no seat on this tribunal. You have no authority to demand anything. I have the authority of everyone who died in that battle, Tanaka replied. Human and Valori and the Sari and all the others. I have the authority of a galaxy that watched what happened and decided that silence was no longer acceptable. She turned slowly, addressing not just the tribunal but everyone in the chamber, every species, every representative, every observer. For 60,000 years, this tribunal has governed the galaxy. It has maintained order. It has resolved disputes. But in all that time, it has never once asked the fundamental question, order for whom? She pointed at the empty throne where Warlord Geth Vorok would have sat. The Kreth had declined to attend. The Kreth used your laws to justify genocide. They cited prior claim to take a world that had been home to 12 billion peaceful beings for 3,000 years, and this tribunal approved it. You gave them legal cover for extermination. The chamber was silent. Tanaka continued. How many times has this happened before? How many species have been destroyed, displaced, or conquered while this tribunal looked away? How many civilizations have died while the elder races counted their resources and calculated their political advantages? She paused, letting the questions hang in the air. Humanity did not come here to conquer. We did not come here to impose our will. We came here to ask a simple question. Is this the galaxy we want to live in? A galaxy where the strong take from the weak and everyone else pretends not to notice. From her throne of silver and light, Counselor Merith of the Synth Collective spoke. What would you have us do, Ambassador? The galaxy is vast. Species are different. Conflict is inevitable. Conflict is inevitable, Tanaka agreed. But genocide is not. Exploitation is not. Standing by while civilizations burn is not. She took a breath. I am not here to tell you how to govern your galaxy. I am here to tell you that humanity will not accept things as they are. We will stand with the vulnerable. We will protect the weak. We will be the voice for those who have no voice. From the Thesari section, a small, nervous being rose. Its translator rendered its words into the common tongue. The Thesari wish to add our voice to humanity's. For centuries, we have been silent because we were afraid. We are still afraid. But we are more afraid of a galaxy without conscience than we are of those who threaten us. One by one, other species rose. The wanderer clans, the merchant guilds, smaller civilizations that had never spoken in this chamber before. Each one added their voice to the growing chorus. High Arbiter Keth Solon watched it all with growing alarm. The elder races had maintained their power through division, keeping smaller species isolated, playing them against each other. Now that division was crumbling. This is highly irregular, he said. The tribunal has procedures. The tribunal has failed, Tanaka interrupted. It failed the Valori. It has failed countless others. The question now is whether it will change or whether it will be replaced. The words hung in the air like a threat. Because they were a threat. Ambassador Tanaka, Counselor Merith's mechanical voice cut through the tension. You speak of change, but change requires structure. What do you propose? Tanaka reached into her jacket and pulled out a data chip. This is a draft charter for a new galactic body. We're calling it the Alliance of Free Peoples. It will exist alongside the tribunal, not instead of it. Any species can join. Any species can speak. And any species that signs the charter agrees to one simple principle. No member of the Alliance will face extinction alone. She held up the chip. It is not perfect. It will need debate and revision. But it is a start. A first step toward a galaxy where standing for each other is not remarkable, it is expected. Sarith Kai rose from the Valori section. Her skin glowed with that golden color that meant hope. The Valori were the first to benefit from humanity's courage. We will be the first to sign this charter. Whatever comes next, we face it together. The Synth Collective's representatives conferred briefly. Then Counselor Merith spoke. The collective has observed the events of the past month with great interest. We have concluded that humanity represents a new variable in galactic calculations, a species that acts on principle rather than advantage. This is fascinating and valuable. The collective will sign the charter. One by one, other species committed. The Thesari, the Wanderers, dozens of smaller civilizations that had never had a voice. Even some of the elder races, watching the political winds shift, indicated willingness to participate. High Arbiter Keth Solon looked around the chamber and saw his power crumbling. The old order, maintained for 60,000 years, was ending. This will not stand, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. The elder races will not accept. The elder races will adapt. Counselor Merith interrupted. That is what living beings do. The galaxy has changed, High Arbiter. We can change with it, or we can be left behind. The session dissolved into smaller discussions, negotiations, arguments. But the fundamental shift had already occurred. The galaxy would never be the same. Ambassador Tanaka stepped outside the chamber and found Sarith Kai waiting for her. The two had become friends in the months since the battle, bound by shared trauma, shared hope, shared vision. You did it, Sarith Kai said. You changed everything. Tanaka shook her head. We changed everything. Humanity, the Valori, the Thesari, everyone who stood up when it mattered. I just spoke the words. The words mattered. You gave voice to what everyone was feeling. They walked together through the corridors of Axis Prime, past representatives from 100 species who were still discussing, still debating, still beginning to build something new. What happens now? Sarith Kai asked. Now comes the hard part. Building the alliance. Making it work. Convincing species who have been enemies for millennia to trust each other. Tanaka smiled tiredly. It will take years. maybe decades, maybe longer, but it will happen. It will happen because it has to. Because the alternative is a galaxy where the strong crush the weak and everyone else looks away. That's not a galaxy I want to live in. That's not a galaxy anyone should have to live in. They reached a viewing gallery overlooking the stars. 100 billion points of light, each one a sun. Each one potentially home to civilizations that would never face extinction alone. My people have a saying, Sci Fi said. The first star to shine makes the darkness seem darker, but each star that follows makes the light grow stronger. You were the first star, ambassador. Now others are joining. Tanaka thought about all the humans who had died to make this moment possible. Pilots and engineers and ordinary people who had flown across the galaxy to protect strangers. They would never see what their sacrifice had built. But somehow, she knew they would approve. We didn't do it alone, she said. That's the whole point. No one should have to do anything alone. A message came through her communicator. The first formal meeting of the Alliance of Free Peoples would convene in 1 week. Representatives from 37 species had already confirmed attendance. More were expected. 37 species, united not by conquest or fear, but by choice, by the simple decision to stand with each other. Tanaka looked out at the stars and allowed herself something she rarely permitted: hope. Not hope that everything would be perfect, not hope that there would be no more conflicts, no more tragedies, no more difficult choices, but hope that when those challenges came, no one would face them alone. Hope that the galaxy was finally becoming what it could be. Come on, she said to Sarith Kai. We have work to do. Together, they walked toward the future. Behind them, the stars continued their ancient dance, and for the first time in 60,000 years, they danced to a different rhythm. Not the rhythm of conquest, not the rhythm of fear, the rhythm of a galaxy learning, slowly and painfully, what it meant to stand together.